I need to welcome His Excellency for making us the honor and coming today to represent the government of the Friendly Republic of India. Thank you, sir, for taking time. I know that you have a very heavy schedule, but still you could make it. It's always difficult to summarize relations between two old nations in few minutes. It's a very hard task. Where should I start? Should I start from the 13th, 12th, 14th century, 15th, I don't know? Or should I start from the end? So I have made a very small summary, and then I'll show where we are now, and probably from where we have come. There are milestones or milestone visits between the two countries. 2001, His Majesty paid a visit to India. It was the first Asian country he visited while becoming king. Then, before that, in 1999, Prime Minister Bashpai visited the Kingdom of Morocco. I personally was privileged to be in his second visit, His Majesty, in 2015, to attend the India-Africa Summit. At the time, I was heading the Asia divisions, exactly like where Rajpura is now. Then, in 2016, I had the privilege at the time there to welcome also the Vice President Ansari. But I believe the moments or the dates of the visit of His Majesty 2015 and then his memorable meeting with the Prime Minister remains the most important one, because it took us from a certain level to another level. Because at the time we decided to elevate the relations into a strategic partnership, and we were instructed as two governments to prepare the content. So meanwhile the content has been done. Unfortunately, the 2 years or 3 years of COVID has made us halt for a while, but it didn't reduce in all the means our will and strong will to go forward. So I may be, because people like figures in India, and I started to like figures as well, probably I'll tell you where we were 7 years ago, and then where we are now. Why I'm saying this? Because the partnership which we are building with India is built or based on 4 pillars. The first one is economic and trade, which is, for me especially now, the backbone for any development. You can do whatever you can, but still if you don't have very good economic relations, you will remain limited. In 2015, we were at $1.2 billion exchange. Now, according to the Indian Ministry of Commerce, we are at $3 billion. But according to our Office of Change, which has all the transactions between our two countries, it's 4.2 billion. Let's divide the two 600 million, it still makes like almost $4 billion, which to my mind is a good number, but still it can be extended extensively because the potentials that exist between the countries is very high. The second pillar, and then of course because we are talking about trade, also we are talking about the presence of the Indian and the Moroccan companies. Because I am trying to convince the Indian companies, I will talk about that. So we moved from 12 companies in 2015 to 44 last week, the 44th one, with a huge number of capacity, and also the perspectives is very high. Then the second pillar is the pillar of the culture of exchange. I believe that the movement between the two countries has become very important. And then when we open the e-visa for the Indians, which I hope we will get it also for the Moroccans very soon, we are working on that. I was surprised when the figures came last week. In fact, Indians represent 10% of all the e-visa that has been requested to Morocco. And then with 10%, if we move it, it makes like 50,900 visitors, without those who come to take the visas. So for me, it's a huge success that people are very interested. The wedding also is taking place. I think my country also has a lot to offer in terms of tourism, and everybody knows that. Then even those who don't know, after the World Cup, I think by the grace with Qatar, I think we gave certain values that people would like to be identified with. The third pillar is definitely the what we would call the global challenges addressed. Climate change, we will talk about the immigration, we will talk about the counterterrorism, and I think we have done quite a good deal in making that level really move between the two countries. The fourth level of these relations, of course, is related to all those which have not been taken into account. And then it concerns the development, the sensitive issues that we have started to do. When I say sensitive issues, we have touched a few of the sectors which have never been before, like defense, like cybersecurity, and like security. So in one side, I'm somehow satisfied, but I wouldn't say satisfied because otherwise we wouldn't work. But when people tell me, thank you, congratulations, Ambassador, you have done a good job, I feel proud, but also a little bit faulty in the sense that I'm not the only person. There is a big team, and then this morning I'm sharing with you just an image which I found. As an ambassador, I find myself like a pilot of Formula One. Of course, Formula One, because we represent heads of state, we cannot be less than Formula One. But the engine, all the preparations is from your team. You can't reach excellence without a very good engine with a good car. You can be a pilot, very good pilot, excellent pilot, but still horrible responsible is always big and great because of his team. And then beside this team, you have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the country where you work. I would call it the traffic lights. Either they can have the green lights, you can have the yellow lights, you can have the red lights. And then here I would stop and would like to thank the Ministry of External Affairs of India for all the support. I wouldn't say we have been successful in everything, but we have been successful in most of the things. And this is the challenge, this is what we are here for. Then my ministry is as well is